It's mocking. Is it? Are we live yet? It's not. Let's see. Does this say? Okay, we're live on YouTube. Sorry, I'm mumbling. Here we go.
Commence primary ignition.
Hey, this is Katie O'Brien, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina Network.
Hello, everybody. Happy
Hey.
Porky Thursday. Welcome to the final Virtual Cantina Watch Along of 2023. I can't believe we're at the end of the year already. It's been ridiculous. I am Spencer. I'm one of your hosts for the evening. And sitting chewy tonight is both Dave and Jeff. How are you guys?
Good.
Challenging double chewy.
There you go.
Yes. One can chrysanthemum if you want to play that, but it's all good. But very excited about our episode tonight, and we'll go a little bit of insight and everything about that with our very special guest in a few moments. But first and foremost, want to plug that this coming Monday, in place of Rebels Revisited, we're going to have our year in review, talk about all the greatness of Star Wars in 2023. And there was a lot of really good Star Wars this year. I mean, mostly thankfully to a celebration and all that, but a whole bunch of goodness going on. And we appreciate everybody being part of our family. 62,000 members worldwide as of this past weekend. That's pretty awesome.
And constantly growing, because I get the notifications all the time. It's like, "Oop, more, oop, another one, oop, another one, oop, another one."
I know. Loving it. But without further ado, get a little bit of insight right now is that I met this fine gentleman at Fan Expo Boston in 2023 when I saw a advertisement that his short film was going to be debuting in Boston. And it was involving Rian Johnson, which everybody on the network knows is that I live and die by The Last Jedi. That's me.
Don't make me bring up the picture. Don't.
Yes.
Make
No. That doesn't matter. But when I saw that this film was actually nominated for Best Irish Short Film at the May the 4th Sci-Fi Film Festival in Ireland, I reached out to my very good friend and friend of the network, Gary O'Toole with Blob of the Hut, and he's like, "You absolutely have to go up and talk to them and tell them I say hello." Very excited. Love this film. We have to welcome the director, Eric Patrick Cameron. Eric, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. I mean, you talk about Boston. That was our U.S. premiere, and man, that was like one of the coolest, probably the single coolest screening I've ever had of anything I've ever made. I mean, we're going into my 13th year since I started like making little shorts on an iPod, and I'm so glad you were able to be there in Boston, and you guys are the best audience ever. I mean, I now no longer, as a New Yorker, I can no longer have any hatred towards Boston. So,
well, you had first off, you had standing room only in that room, which was absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, one of the funniest things is that whoever was helping you guys in the room were like, "We're going to put the posters here, but don't take them until the end of the movie. You can't put free swag in front of everybody and say, you have to wait."
I don't know who said that. I can tell you that was not me, or my composer was with me, Paul. Richard Keegan, and you'll hear his brilliant. I have no other words to describe his score other than brilliant. And he was there with me. And then our other friend Matt was with us doing some behind the scenes videos and photos of the event. I can tell you, it was none of the three of us telling people that, but we made sure everyone got their posters before. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I am so glad I was not only able to get my poster for you guys signed, but also I had brought this. I surprised Eric with a shot of him walking through Javim in Obi-Wan.
Ooh.
Which was very, very, like, I think he screamed, "Holy shit," when he saw it. But yeah. Very good. So if you have questions for Eric, Dave, how would people want to ask questions for Eric about his filming and everything about the documentary we watched tonight?
Incidentally, if you have any questions, I just finished a banner right there. Looky there. So if you have any questions for Eric, just go ahead and put them in the chat, whether you're on the YouTube channel or whether you're on the Facebook. We should be on both of those. Go ahead and put them in the chat. He should be able to see them, and if he's a little, preoccupied, we'll be monitoring that chat as well, and we'll pass those along. So right there. And as always, though, if you are going to make a comment, please go ahead and visit StreamYard.com/the Facebook to connect your Facebook account. So that way we know who you are. Okay. So you don't just show up as Facebook user. Go ahead and connect your account so we can give you the proper credit for an interesting question.
So if you do /the Facebook, does that count?
It's like going to the Walmart or, heading uptown to the big house.
Okay. And Jeff, if people want to watch along with us tonight, how would they be able to?
Yes. So we're going to be picking it up on Vimeo, and it's streaming on Vimeo. It's also streaming on YouTube. So depending on what you want to use, but I would say go with Vimeo, and you won't have to worry about possible ads. But like Dave so cordially posted here, you can search for Star Wars documentary with Ryan Johnson, and that should narrow it down quite a bit. I think I just looked for the space western.
I tried that and I couldn't, and it didn't come up immediately. So
maybe I clicked on the link that Spencer provided. That might have been it too.
Anyway, so Eric, what was your gateway into Star Wars?
Oh my God! I mean, my first memory with anything Star Wars, I must have been about 3 or 4 years old, and my mom and I were at a flea market, and there was a Han Solo figure, the 95 Power of the Force series, loose in his Stormtrooper outfit, and I thought it looked like Buzz Lightyear for whatever reason. I was 3 or 4 years old, and it was like it was a buck. So we picked that up, and then I don't know, maybe a year later, I think I tried watching Empire, and I was a little kid, and it just didn't. It just didn't hit me as hard. And then the Clone Wars came out in 2008. I was, I guess I was about 7, and that was like my go-to cartoon. Every week I religiously watched that show without being like a diehard Star Wars fan. I was just a fan of this show, like any other cartoon that kids would watch. And then 2011, which I kind of mentioned a little bit in this documentary, my mom takes me to Disney for my birthday, and it wasn't my first time riding Star Tours. I had been to Disney before, but again, it didn't. As a little kid, it didn't. It didn't register as much as it did. This was my 10th birthday, and it had just been renovated to be what it is now, the Star Tours, the Adventures Continue with the 3D, and then this whole other new world of immersiveness. And as soon as that ride ended, my entire life was changed. Every single item on my Christmas list that year was Star Wars related. I had immediately binged the at that point it was just the 6 movies over and over and over again. I remember that Christmas I got my Christmas and birthday kind of intertwined, but that Christmas I remember getting Obi-Wan and Django from Attack of the Clones, the vintage collection, those figures. And I mean, since then it's kind of just never left me. I had since 2012, so that next summer, through 2015, I had attended Star Wars weekends every year up until that ended at Disney World. I had been to Celebration in Orlando in 2012, and then Orlando in 17, which you see in the opening of this, a lot of stuff with Ryan, the first time I met Ryan. Anaheim last year. I was trying to make London this past year, it just didn't work out. But Star Wars has never left me. I had a podcast of my own for a while as a young teenager. We called it the Rogue Squad Cast, and that was fun. And I think when the sequels came out, that was a huge thing, because I had been such a diehard Star Wars fan for, I guess 5 years at that point or so. And now there's new movies coming out. They would come out every Christmas. So it was like a birthday gift. It was a Christmas gift. Every time a Star Wars movie came out, that's what I did for my birthday. I would go and see Star Wars. And saw The Force Awakens, I think 12 times in theaters, and Last Jedi 8 times. And Star Wars will always be one of those things that is just very near and dear to me. So I knew I needed to express that love in a way that didn't feel like a fan film, but felt like I'm telling an untold story with just a lot of love for this thing that's bigger than everybody.
It's very interesting because you came into Star Wars at a time when there was no lull at all. Like our generation, the three of us over here, the three old wise men over here, we had to wait 16 years for anything. So you came in at a time where there was just content. And we talk about this all the time. People are never going to have to wait again for anything Star Wars. There's at least going to be some sort of property happening for the foreseeable future, at least one to multiple levels.
You better knock on some wood right there. I don't want dark times again. You better not jinx us there.
Knock on the wood. Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started getting into it diehard, aside from the Clone Wars, there was nothing besides those 6 movies. I mean, I think I'd read some of the books and whatnot, and then so I mean, I don't understand, I guess, the 16-year wait. I do kind of, I mean, like that lead up to The Force Awakens, from the time Disney purchased Lucasfilm to the time that movie released, for me felt like an eternity. And that was, but at the same time, it was, I don't know if you guys agreed, the most exciting lead up to any kind of Star Wars event. It was unlike anything else. I don't think we'll ever get that level of hype, for better or for worse. I love that now, because the sequel trilogy did absolutely bring in a whole new generation of fans, and that's fantastic, and I'm glad there's always something coming out. But the magic of waiting that long for something was also special.
Okay,
I kind of missed
that one a little bit, because when we all had to sit up all night long to download the trailer for the prequels in this little space, took all night on the computer to download that.
Yeah,
there was some hype for that one too.
But also, if you recall, I mean, when the first trailer, the teaser trailer for Force Awakens came out, and the Chewie were home.
Oh yeah,
the place went apeshit. Like, there was that celebration, and that went viral within seconds, quicker than obviously than the laughter of the Emperor for Rise in Chicago. but Chewie We're Home went viral
yeah.
like instantaneously.
Well, and we knew absolutely nothing about what they were going to do. We had all of that EU content, and we didn't know, are they going to bring in any of that? Are they going to do? I mean, we were speculating on, any of that were going to come true, and in our brains, and then it did what it did. But it's neither here nor
Yeah,
there.
I remember that day very well. I watched the live stream. I wasn't at Anaheim, but I watched the live stream, and tears were flowing. And I mean, that moment is still, it's kind of, I mean, it's interesting because like my first gateway into Star Wars was essentially this Han Solo action figure that I thought was Buzz Lightyear. But Han Solo has always been my number one favorite character. So that moment really hit hard. And I mean, even the teaser before that came out on the Black Friday of 2014, that was also, I mean, it was kind of unheard of to get a trailer over a year in advance before a movie coming out, let alone this is Star Wars. That was also incredible, and seeing the Falcon for the first time and forever. It was magical. It was a great time to be a Star Wars fan. So, yeah.
So here's our first question, kind of quasi from the crowd. This is, I would be remiss in not asking this for some of our other hosts. So you said that you are came in the Clone Wars, big huge fan of the Clone Wars, and we may or may not be having a show in the future devoted to that. But we have a show that airs on Mondays called Rebels Revisited. So did you go immediately from Clone Wars into Rebels? Did you, was that a thing as well?
Oh yeah. I was there with Rebels from day one. I mean, I was at the Star Wars weekends of 2014 when they first showed the I think the very first photo or trailer of Rebels was screened there, and they even had some of the cast that year that nobody had, no one had seen the show. These were all new faces for Star Wars fans. So yeah, I was there, and that was also a great time. I think Clone Wars for me it has a different place in my heart than Rebels does, just because it was all I knew for many years. That was my Star Wars from since 2008 through up until I guess 2011. That was my Star Wars. And then Rebels was great because it was it was a promising time. Disney had just bought Lucasfilm. We knew that movies were coming, and this was like this was your waiting room. The movie isn't ready yet, but here's this great show from a lot of the same Clone Wars crew, and Filoni, and he was a genius. And yeah, I mean, I'll never forget the season 1 finale of Rebels, and absolutely losing my mind that Ahsoka was Fulcrum. That was incredible.
So, live action Clone Wars and Ahsoka. What was your take?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I got to see it on the big screen at AMC Empire 25 in Times Square, and seeing that, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it with an audience.
I was there for that in Boston.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was just like watching a Star Wars movie opening night with Star Wars fans. Everyone was losing their minds and cheering, and I mean, it was like like a sporting event for Star Wars. Everyone was, for those 45 minutes, everyone felt unified, like one big Star Wars family. And I mean, the way Filoni executed it too was brilliant. Yeah, some people can say it was fan service, but just look at, this is something Clone Wars fans were waiting 15 years for. You want to call it fan service, fine. I'm glad we got it. It was. I mean, to see Hayden back, I mean, in a different way, we got a great version of his Vader in Kenobi, and we got a glimpse of what his Anakin, his revival of Anakin was in that show. but this was something completely different, and it was absolutely a dream come true for. I think I don't want to speak on behalf of every Clone Wars fan, but I am. It was absolutely a dream come true for every Clone Wars fan.
What do you
And
think of Hayden
Yeah.
basically playing Matt Lanter's Anakin?
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing the voice actors talk about their role in interpreting those characters. You know, I've had many conversations with James Arnold Taylor about how, you know, the job of a voice actor for, I guess I'll use Clone Wars as an example, isn't to do an impression of the actor that originated that role, but to look at that character and interpret them. And I guess in James's case, he paid great homage to kind of combining the Alec Guinness and the Ewan versions. But you're also finding your own voice. So I love that Hayden, it kind of came really full circle, because now Hayden is looking at Matt and kind of using that as a stepping stone to find out who Anakin is in these 3 years between clones and Sith. And it still very much felt like Hayden's Anakin, which is what I loved. And you get the hair, you get the costume of Matt's version for the first few seasons of Clone Wars. But you know, it still felt like, more than anything, it still felt like Anakin. And I think that's what's the voice actors and the live action actors have done so well, is, you know, they throw the egos out the window, and they look at the material and what they need to do to do service to those characters, and to do justice for the fans. And it was great. It was awesome. I'm really hoping it's not the last time we see Hayden. He was incredible.
Well, he's re-signed with his agent. He's got a love for acting again, so
Yeah.
hopefully
Maybe.
we'll see more of him. And hopefully, as we always say, is that, you know, such a shame that Ray Stevenson wasn't alive to get his flowers, because he stole the show. Like, literally, the Bill and Skull character is fantastic.
Yeah. He was great. He was fantastic.
The fact that he's going towards Mortis, and we saw the flashing light like you saw in the Clone Wars, like
it's awesome. It was incredible. I mean, I feel like the Mortis arc is a lot of Clone Wars fans' favorite arc in that entire series. So seeing that was surreal. And that was a huge loss, right? I have a lot of sympathy for the cast and the crew, and his family, of course. And I mean, I trust Lucasfilm and Filoni that they'll make the right decision. You know, just as what they did with Carrie. You know, yesterday was her anniversary, and that was a devastating loss to her family, her friends, and everyone that worked on Star Wars, and of course all of our fans. I can tell you the exact moment I found out the news, and was distraught. But JJ did a fantastic job honoring her legacy, and I have just as much faith in Filoni and Lucasfilm and everybody, and figuring out what they do with Balin.
So we're great segue, especially since we're going to be starting off the film in the next 5 minutes. You're going to start off with a little spoiler alert of when Ryan surprised us all at 2017's celebration, which actually was my first celebration ever. I had run our first event and then jumped online for the opening panel, which, I'm sorry, that 40th anniversary panel, nothing's ever going to top that. I don't care how hard they try. And I was actually sitting with Gary for that, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
But I could not stay awake to get on a line for the Last Jedi panel. And because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. And I'm kicking myself ever since then. Jeff, were you online for that panel?
I missed both those panels that year. I'm hit and miss with panels sometimes. So, but if they stream them, I'm all about watching them later. So, it's not quite the same, but it's.
So we always say that Celebration, you can go to a different con, but Celebration's its own egg. You cannot compare Celebration to New York Comic Con, to San Diego Comic Con, to Fan Expo. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, I've gone to 3 celebrations now, and I mean, each of them felt so different from each other. Despite my first 2 were the Orlando ones in 12 and 17, and then Anaheim, and they've all been very different. I think Orlando, though, how do you top that? I mean, I was there for the 40th panel. It was a group of us, and we all camped out. And one of my friends, Ross, who you might know is MGF Customs. He paints Lego minifigures, and he recorded some of the vlog style footage in the beginning of the title sequence of the film. And I think he did the math, and by the end of Friday, told the group of us, he was like, "Guys, I don't think we've slept in 67 hours." And I mean, we were all very caffeinated, and it was absolutely worth it. I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. I mean, that was the first time I saw a glimpse of Harrison Ford. I had seen a glimpse of George in 2012, but that was like the first time I got to really see him speak. And the bringing out John Williams and the Orlando Symphony. I think it was the Orlando Philharmonic. I mean, everyone was losing their minds. I lost my voice completely for the rest of the weekend, and it was the best experience ever. Star Wars Celebration brings a whole new level of magic that not only does no other convention do, but I don't think any other convention has the power to do that. There's no other community of fans that I think get it as excited as Star Wars fans. And that's why you see the attendance of Celebration being as high as something like New York Comic Con.
Right.
So yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, it's one fandom that can do the attendance of another con that is doing all the fandom.
Yeah.
So
you have people that travel all over the world. I mean, you say Gary was there. Gary's coming from Ireland. You have people coming from Australia. You have people coming from parts of Asia. I mean, everyone is, which I think it's fantastic. They're doing Celebration Japan. That's brilliant. I'd love to go. You have people stuck on planes for over 24 hours coming to these things, and it just is such a huge testament to the dedication and love that all of these we all have for Star Wars. It's great.
So Jeff has been to every single United States celebration since Denver, and Dave's first celebration was actually Anaheim.
It was.
Wow. Which the 15 or
22?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great.
First one ever.
That was also a fantastic year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about the John Williams and the Harrison, and I was like, no, wait, that happened again. That was Anaheim, and that was a powerful moment of that panel.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling you this. I ran after Bunta Anaheim to go home because I was going actually to Lake Como for a brother's wedding. So unfortunately, I missed celebration.
Wow.
I got to go to Naboo.
You had to leave Celebration to go to Naboo.
That's like the coolest wedding destination ever.
And I said, if I'm missing Celebration,
do that.
I said, if I'm missing Celebration, I'm coming with my Jedi robe. So I got pictures of me in the spot wearing a Jedi robe. I had to.
Fantastic.
But I was watching the footage, before I left for Italy, and when the Harrison comes out to talk about, Indy and then John Williams, I'm texting Dave. I'm like, okay, did you cry? And he's like, yes. I'm like, we had the same exact, feeling in 2017. When you had that, it's like,
Oh yeah,
I think
well, they pulled on the heartstrings with the tribute to Carrie in that. It's just like, oh.
They did. They did. I mean, I still rewatch that montage frequently. I mean, I also like what if whoever picked Bowie's Rebel Rebel to go to that is an absolute genius. That was beautiful. I mean, and to go back to Anaheim last year, as much as I'm a Star Wars fan, I was an Indiana Jones fan first. That was 4 years old, maybe even 3. I saw the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular in Disney World. That's what made me want to make movies. So I think more so than probably any other franchise, movie, whatever, Indiana Jones is another thing that just means so much to me. So to be in that room and see Harrison again and hear John Williams perform the I think what it was Raiders March and Helena's theme, right? Those
Yes.
two, or no, it wasn't Helena's theme. I think that came at one of his later concerts. I think it was just Raiders.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, I don't. I'd have to look at the footage. It was the best thing ever. And I didn't even expect it. I mean, you're at a Star Wars celebration, but they know everyone there loves Indy just as much as they love Star Wars, and it was incredible. And what a way to kind of send
London, they showed us 8 minutes of Dial of Destiny in the opening panel.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
which was pretty awesome. So with that in mind, and before we get started, because I know we can go down a rabbit hole, I particularly love Dial of Destiny. I thought it was nice, kind of the Dawn of the Jedi with James Mangold. Your thoughts?
I'm excited. You know, I mean, for me, you know, you put the Star Wars logo on anything, I'm there day one. I'm excited for everything. I think I'm particularly really interested in the Rey movie. That was such a huge surprise. I feel like no one really heard any rumors about that. I love the character of Rey. I love her arc. I love where she's going. I'm so excited for that. And I'm also, I mean, who wouldn't want to see the origin of the Jedi in Mangold's movie? So I'm really excited to see kind of where everything goes, and particularly just excited to get back to the movie theater and watch a Star Wars movie again. You know, I love the television. I love the Disney Plus stuff that they've been doing. I think it's been fantastic to feed all of our needs for Star Wars stories, but nothing beats the theatrical experience. So I'm excited for all of that jazz.
So before you even got involved in watching Star Wars, we can all test this. When the prequels came out, like I was in college and it was running 24 hours a day for a full week.
My first viewing of episode 1 was 3 a.m. in Westwood here in LA.
Wow.
And
at the theater I'm thinking of, right? The one that hosts a bunch of premieres, right?
It's the Westwood one. Yeah, it's the Fox Village Westwood.
Yes,
the main.
You saw it. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so 3 a.m. getting out of the movie theater at 5:30 in the morning and having to go to work was not the most pleasant, but you know, I was younger.
But worth it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anyway,
awesome.
So we're about that time right now, so let's please queue up your Vimeos. How you're gonna be watching this episode. And whenever the producer is ready, the 10-second countdown, please.
Okay. And you ready, Derek?
Yeah, I'm hovering over the play.
Okay, here. We're going to do a countdown.
Very, very, very nice touch on the graphics, the color, and the font of a film by.
Thank you. I want to pay homage to the original opening, and that made its revival in the Siege of Mandalore arc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, this is what we were talking about. Yeah.
That could have been its own movie. That arc.
Oh my god, I absolutely. I think the only way to watch that now that all the episodes are out is in one
Yeah.
place. I mean, yeah. But yeah, this was an incredible panel that we were talking about earlier, and this a lot of the footage you see was recorded by my friend who was right next to me, Ross, who is I admire his dedication to filming absolutely everything, because that really came in handy. So,
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I was actually,
that
because
guy.
I couldn't get in, I was actually at the Star Wars show stage watching the panel,
Oh yeah,
and
cool.
then hauled ass back to the theater to try to get one of those posters just because I thought it was like the coolest thing
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
But that was such a incredible red herring as far as their marketing was concerned. Because if you look at the poster like right behind, you can see like you have Luke without the hood, and then the other side has Luke with the hood. So you didn't know
Mm,
what
Mhm.
did Luke turn to the dark side? What happened?
mm.
Kind of.
Ooh.
So I mean, what gave you like? What was the whole auspice of you doing this passion project?
Um, yeah, that's a great question. I was finishing my undergrad, and I was studying abroad in Dingle. And the reason why I chose the particular university I went to was because they were the only ones that, like, I knew I always wanted to study abroad somewhere because I had never left the States, and I had a deep love for Ireland and the UK, and just exploring the world. And this, I had been rejected from a number of the top film schools at that time, and this was the only school that I think was going to offer a film program abroad, especially in a place like Dingle, Ireland. And I knew that this was where they made Star Wars, so I said, "Sign me the hell up." And I think when I got there, you feel so already welcomed by. I mean, that's we're watching the chapter called "A Warm Wookiee Welcome," and that really is what you feel like when you get there. You feel so welcomed by everybody, and there is everyone is still very, no one is like, die hard Star Wars over there, because it's really no big deal to them. They lived it. But it's still, as you can see in that sign right there, they're very proud of the fact that they welcome Star Wars, and that they're now on the map for not just the Irish film industry, but an international film industry, which is again a lot of what this movie is about. And I knew that if I knew I wanted to make a movie out there, just because it's such a beautiful town. It's so photogenic. It's like a storybook village. That's really the best way to describe it. Um, and I didn't know what I was gonna do for a bit, and I was toying with this idea, and I think I just decided to go for it. And pre-production started almost 2 years ago. I think I started pre-production like the first week of February 2022, and it just grew and grew and grew to what it is. I spent a number of months talking with many of the people I'm very close with, pretty much everyone you see in that I've interviewed for the film, and hearing their stories. And I've talked to other sources, and just knew that there was a story to tell, because what a lot of people know about Star Wars in Ireland is that they filmed on Skellig Michael, which obviously is
Oh,
very much the case. But it's more than just Skellig Michael. It's a lot bigger than that. Um, so I feel like that wasn't really touched upon in previous news articles or documentaries.
Yeah, they focus a
Um,
lot on Skellig Michael
yeah.
and less on
it's a
Dingle.
lot, yeah, exactly. I mean, for a good reason. It's a fantastic destination. That is the island, Temple Island, that Luke lives on. But most of the I think, I don't know if I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned the exact percentage in the film. But just about 90% of the shots you see in the final cut were filmed physically in Dingle. They just made it look like Skellig. I think it was a story that people really needed to hear, that are Star Wars fans. And I wanted to introduce. I had such an amazing time in this town, and it genuinely was the best time of my life. I feel like a lot of people should be introduced to a new vacation spot. So that's kind of what this is. So if
I love
someone
how much
can't
they own.
maybe, what was that?
I love how much Dingle owns that they're a Star Wars location. With
Oh
all the
yeah, I
signs.
mean, there's
There's a
so
big
many.
orange sign and it says, well,
Yeah, there's plenty of
spoiler it,
signs
but
and gift shops, and if a Star Wars fan maybe can't make a celebration one year, but they want to do a trip that's Star Wars centric, Ireland's the best place to do it. So I kind of wanted to tell people that in my own way. So yeah, it was. It's been a wild ride for 2 years now, which is still pretty surreal to say out loud that this thing has been with me for 2 years. But I'll tell you, it's real relieving that now that it's completely out there for the world, I'm not going to touch it, and I can move on to the next thing.
What? You're not going to go ahead and do the special edition of this?
Listen, never say never. I am sure there will be something that comes up that maybe will tempt me. We'll see if I follow through. Never say never, though.
It's great seeing
you, sir, have massive nerd credit that you went to college for Star Wars.
There you go.
I appreciate. Thank you. I genuinely, that was the sole decision why I chose to go where I did, was because of this. It was great. And I'll say the program, it's called Shoe and Dingle, and it wasn't just specific to my university. Anyone in undergrad can reach out to the Shoe and Dingle faculty and try to study abroad there. It's very much open to many U.S. colleges and all that. So if anyone's watching that's still an undergrad and you have some time before you complete your degree, I can't recommend going to this more. Oh, and I'm rambling while we have the gentleman sleuth himself talking.
Oh yes,
I love the subtitle.
Thank you. That was his Twitter bio forever, and it was still that when I was editing this. I think he's changed it since, but you know what? It's still a great self-title, and I love it.
So we talked about this before. I mean, I am a proud flag bearer for this movie. I mean, I've also never seen the fandom so divisive, but so passionate as well. What's your thoughts on like the passion of the fandom, whether they're on the pro or the anti Last Jedi bandwagon?
It's a difficult question to answer because, to briefly answer it, the negativity that was there and still is there is very disturbing. For more reasons. If someone wants to say that they didn't like the movie, that's completely fine. That's subjective. But to attack the people that made it is despicable. And I'll be completely honest. There was I'm very grateful to everyone that has shared this movie, this documentary over the last few days. But I saw one post that ended up getting about 200 comments, and almost every single comment. This was a comment under the documentary. Almost every single comment had nothing to do with it. It was all negativity about The Last Jedi, and I think it's all very ludicrous. I think people, what was everyone taught in kindergarten? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism. Listen, I think the thing I've been saying most to people after releasing this and other films is I'd rather hear negative comments about my work because it's something for me to improve on. It's for me, it's more constructive than hearing praise. But at the same time, you can be constructive without being an asshole. And a lot of Star Wars fans didn't get that 6 years ago, and they don't get it now. And I think people need to shut the fuck up.
Well, I mean,
So,
sadly, that is the internet as it is
yeah.
just negativity abounds because it sadly sells. And I mean, I think that's something that I really enjoy about your documentary is it's not that. It's the complete opposite. And it's telling just the amazing goodness of Dingle and this area of Ireland. I mean, you mentioned we missed a few minutes ago, Eunice in costume and the producers going to the local elementary school and just like invading.
That had to have been a great trigger for all those kids that are now Star Wars fans that might not have been otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. The moment in that piece that was so touching to me, and that might be my favorite part of the whole film, is when Dara, who's a film producer and an editor, and she had mentioned that her little cousin was in that classroom, and he's now pursuing filmmaking, and that I think I might have shed a tear when she said that because I mean that speaks to the impact of Star Wars. You know, if it was that way for me. Star Wars is it always inspires me to go out and create, and that's the magic of Lucasfilm too. I mean, I owe my entire career to Lucasfilm with Indiana Jones. If it weren't for Indiana Jones, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now. And to kind of go back and say about what you were saying, Dave, about how this documentary isn't about what people think of the movie. I'm glad you said it because it was completely intentional. I think the thing I've learned is, and I don't consider really myself to be a documentary filmmaker. I don't really set out to make more docs in the future. This was kind of just seizing an opportunity. But the thing I learned is when you're making a doc, you want to be as objective as possible and not have any bias. And this movie isn't trying to convince anyone to love it or hate it. In the beginning I mentioned I love it, and that's all you really get. But it's not a story about, to me, like, the controversy around it isn't interesting. I couldn't give any less shits about what people think of The Last Jedi. Now we're in 2024 when it came out in 2017. I don't give a shit what people think. There's this story to tell, and there are this plotline A and plotline B. A being this, the behind the scenes of the filming, and then kind of plotline B is a little bit of my journey, which originally wasn't the plan for the film. The plan was to just be about behind the scenes production. But one of the notes I got from virtually everyone that saw an early, a working cut, friends and all that, and professionals, they all said, you have a story, and you need to tell it, and we need more of you. And as a director, I did not want to have to look at myself and listen to myself while editing it, because, and like, even now, I'm looking at you guys right now. I'm not watching the movie because I can't. I don't want to look at my goddamn face.
You're pouring a Guinness. You have to watch.
Yeah,
that.
you have to watch.
Is that what I'm doing right now?
That's the really cool part is you telling the story of the people. Is the guy a few minutes ago, Cian, I can't pronounce the Irish names. Is Cian?
Keen.
Yes, Keen. That had no idea who Mark Hamill was.
And then he was. I think he was talking about one of the guys working. That I don't know if he was talking about the guy who was working. I don't know if that guy didn't know Mark or knew Mark, but was just treating him like a regular dude. It was a great story. Great story.
Well, yeah, and then of course the reason that you're pouring a Guinness is talking about Daisy Ridley, who just is a bartender, and they're at the wrap party is hot back behind the bar.
Yeah.
No, we're just gonna serve drinks. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I wanted to keep it as casual as possible, and I mean, again, you can just try to focus on this story that I wanted to tell, and and I'm glad I got to tell that. So yeah, I think also, I wanted to be able to talk to Ryan about this because he offered so much great insight, and he was really the missing link. And I didn't want to talk about Star Wars or anything like that. I wanted to talk about Ireland. You know, I think now, you know, I've been talking about Star Wars for so many. I mean, you guys have been talking about Star Wars longer than me, but I feel like I've been talking about Star Wars a long time, and I'm much more interested in talking about Ireland or talking about kind of behind the scenes stuff, and you know, or how this shot was done, or about you know, JJ or whoever, and that interests me so much more than any kind of discourse around the films, positive or negative. You know, I have a love, and I can find deep appreciation in every single piece of Star Wars media. You know, yeah, I have my favorites, but I it's all Star Wars to me. It's all
I mean,
all that story.
I will have to say is that probably my favorite shot in all of Star Wars is the widescreen of the Battle of Crate. When you got Luke on one side and Kylo on the other. To me, that was like perfection.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to go there. That was Bolivia, right?
I believe so.
Was
Yeah.
it Bolivia? I'd love to go there. Would love to go there. Maybe that's a sequel.
Right? I'm telling you, I was trying to push you to do Lake Como earlier, but you know, you go do Bolivia too. Yeah.
Maybe if I can find the strength in me to do another doc, maybe. I think, you know, this I've done documentary style stuff in the past, much more short form, and my bread and butter is more narrative. I like to stick to a script, and as you guys will see who are watching later on the film, the nature of the documentary is always changing. You know, that you can't really prepare for what it's going to be. When you're shooting it, you have no idea what this movie is. You're just shooting shit. And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of the planner in me. I just want something kind of planned meticulously, and then be open to improvisation and changes. But the documentary is just too many moving pieces, too much B-roll. You know, all of I probably went through days upon days of footage to use as B-roll, because I was in Ireland for 4 months, and when you're pretty much taking photos and videos every single day because it's so goddamn beautiful, you got a lot to go through. So that's kind of why I don't I'm not looking to do another doc. I'm open to it if the right thing pops up, but I'd love to just keep doing narrative stuff. Not to plug my other narrative works. I did just release a short film last month, though, that's very season's greetings, holiday appropriate for anyone that's still in the holiday, you know, festivities. It's called Magical Mystery Toy. It's on my Vimeo. You can watch it there. I don't know if there are any Star Wars references or Easter eggs. There might have been some unintentional ones, but for those familiar with J.J. Abrams and his mystery box theory of storytelling, there's a big reference to that.
Okay.
And the Tannen's mystery box.
So you brought JJ. I have a question for you. Do you hawk the Trek?
Do I what?
Do you hawk the Trek?
Do I like his Star Trek movies?
Sure. Well, hawk the Trek. I'm quoting fanboys, but
yes.
Oh,
you have aged all three of us.
No. I love, because Kyle Newman. I love Kyle Newman. I love his movie Fanboys. I've seen it. It's been a number of years since I've seen it, so I didn't pick up on that. I apologize. I'll be honest. The only Star Trek I know are JJ's movies, and I love them. I have not gotten into the rest of the lore.
You don't need to.
It's for me. That's a lot to get into. That's a lot of.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, what is that, like 50, 60 years of television and movies, and you know, I'm sure it's fantastic, and I'm sure, like Doctor Who, I'm sure it's absolutely fantastic. It's a bit too much for me to get into. I still haven't seen the Harry Potter picture. So,
anyways,
yeah. Where are we at with this? We're at Ryan talking about we're still at the bar.
So yeah, like tell us about how you got this interview with Ryan, and like where you
On the
were
street.
when you were, and yeah, I see it's like multiple camera angles. Like how
Yeah.
super over prepared were you for that shooting?
Yeah. Well, Ryan's interview was the last thing we shot, so I already knew what the style of the interviews were because I had done all my interviews, and for most of them, there were a couple of them I had to stick to a one camera shot because I didn't like how the other angle looked, or it just wasn't practical for me. So typically, my setup was my A camera was a bit wider, locked on a tripod. My B camera was handheld. Um, so that style was kind of already solidified when I was doing the principal photography in Ireland. So I guess if you want to call the Ryan interview was additional photography. And well, yeah, I mean that's reaching out to Ryan and Ryan's team and his publicist. That was the very first thing I did in pre-production in February of 2022. Before I tried planning out what this story was going to be, I wanted to talk to some of the people. And at that point, I was, looking for, you know, email response, Zoom interview, what have you. And I had reached out to a number of people. I reached out to Ryan's team, JJ's team, Daisy's team, Mark's team. I reached a couple others. I don't even remember off the top of my head. And it was a lot of scheduling conflicts. That was it was either no answer or the answer was scheduling conflicts, which is completely fine. And um, Ryan was the one that I knew that I knew that there was a missing piece, and I knew he would be able to um, give that, be that missing piece of the puzzle. So I stayed in communication with his publicist throughout the year. Um, and when he was promoting Glass Onion, we were able to work something out, and he was incredibly generous to give his time, and take the time out of his day to talk to a little guy like me. And it thankfully it worked out where I didn't have to ruin the style of the other interviews and do it on Zoom. I was able to. He was in New York promoting Glass Onion and Poker Face, and I was able to stick to my style there, and he was genuinely one of the kindest, humblest guys working in Hollywood, and it's such a testament to who he is as a person, and I think it's really it's lovely to know that the people you look up to, these big Hollywood guys and everyone, and not just guys, everybody in Hollywood, to know that you're looking up to someone and to know that they're actually a good person, um, and they're humble, and I come across plenty of other people in the industry that are far um, less known than someone like Ryan or someone like JJ, but their egos are 10 times bigger. And people like JJ, who I've had the pleasure of meeting when I was much younger, and Ryan, they have no ego. They're all about the art of filmmaking, and I'm eternally grateful now until the day I die for the time that Ryan gave to me to make this movie complete. I wouldn't have been able to. I think I would have completed the movie one way or another, but it wouldn't have been as good. So forever thankful.
Well,
one of the stories I love hearing about with a Ryan story is that he would pull Filoni in and give him directing tips right before Filoni was even thinking about directing anything live action. Ryan was his first lesson behind the camera.
Yeah, I mean, again, testament to who he is. We mentioned you see in the beginning of the movie him coming out to 3,000 fans camping out overnight and telling everyone at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, "Great to see everybody. I'm gonna make sure that every single one of you gets to see me, photo, autograph, whatever. I'm gonna stay here until I see everybody. I can't imagine him getting even an hour of sleep that night.
Mm.
To do that while being in such a position of power just speaks to how humble and down to earth he is. And it was incredible. He's such a kind guy, and I'm glad
So we're
that.
looking at this one scene right now.
Yeah. What are we
You're
at?
saying? I'm sorry.
No. Where are we at? Where are we at?
You were
You were
saying?
saying something. You're saying something about a scene.
Oh, I was about to say is that so we're at this section where right now
Yeah.
the weather time. If you don't hit it right, you're not getting to Skellig, and we're at that point right now in your pilgrimage.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean,
Did I
you're
freeze?
doing some amazing stuff. To hear is I really like the part of the film where you've got the conversation on the phone and you've got the waveforms and stuff. That adds a whole lot to it. And
Thank
just
you. Thank you.
to see you sitting there, I presume with like a selfie stick, just kind of walking down the street and past the pastures and discussing what's going on, and you can see the emotion on your face about what's happening. It's some good filmmaking, right?
Thank you. I appreciate. Yeah. Believe it or not, no selfie stick. That was my arm. Selfie stick would have been a lot easier. I'll tell you. Yeah, that was. I mean, again, that kind of stuff wasn't even planned to really be in the final cut. I was kind of maybe toying with the idea. Oh, maybe I'll do like a behind the scenes of this documentary. But I kind of realized this whole documentary is a behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So to do a behind the scenes of the behind the scenes seemed too much. So it just kind of and structurally, I hope people agree. I think it all works. So I'm gonna fast forward to this timestamp because my Vimeo must have paused or something. I'm at like 9 minutes for whatever reason. I
You
have
just
no
hit the
idea why.
prologue. So
Yeah, we're at the prologue right now. So where did you get like
Fantastic.
the drone shots or the big helicopter shots of the island and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, those were courtesy of the May the 4th festival because I had so the May the 4th Films Festival that screened the movie on May the 4th this past year. I had went to their festival the year before because I was filming the Skellig stuff at that same time. So I got to talk with one of the organizers, James, who owns Port McGee whiskey. I think it's Port McGee whiskey. Port McGee Distillery. The name is in the credits.
yes,
I apologize.
I noticed that.
And he had these incredible drone shots that he got a number of years ago that he hadn't used for anything. He got them during the off season, and he said, "Yeah, absolutely. Send me an email, and they're yours." And he said, "Just like, yeah, just give credit to the festival. We want people to come." And I'm like, "Absolutely." And yeah, there's some beautiful shots. Beautiful. That I'm horrible with drones. I'll be honest. I've tried using a drone a couple of times, and I would not trust myself using one. So I'm very glad that he was able to pull that off, and that he was able to give that to me. And I wanted to use it very sparingly because he gave me probably about 20 minutes of drone footage, but I knew that if you overuse drone footage, it can seem tacky, especially, the modern drones, they have a very specific look to it that didn't really jive with the rest of the style of the movie. So I wanted to use the drone shot, really just that one kind of big, tracking out to see both islands. I want to use that as like a final, swell of sorts, and like a finale. So yeah, I'm very thankful that that I had that.
So the majority of your talking heads here
Yeah.
are what looks like you're sitting on Skellig Michael. Were you there for hours and hours trying to get all your lines out, or did you guys? Because I was thinking that this could have been done other ways, but there is also the photo below you that shows you sitting on the stone there.
What do you guys think? I'll tell you how I did it, but I want to know what you think.
I was thinking that it was some footage that you ended up posting up in front of, like on a sort of like a
Yeah,
volume type screen.
I think it looks like you created your own volume right there.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Nice.
Right on the head.
We gave away the trick.
You gave it away. No, listen, I think listen, movies are magic, and making, filmmaking is a magic in and of itself. And with magic, they say good a magician never reveals their tricks, and I disagree. I think the only way for this art form to grow and evolve and continue on over time is if we reveal our tricks. So yeah, I was able to get access to. I won't call it a volume because it very much wasn't.
Yeah,
I wish
it was the same idea, right, with the screen.
it was basically just a big. I was able to get access to a big TV essentially, and it was just a big LED, one-dimensional LED panel. And I took the footage I had from when I shot this poster shot, and that the final shot you see in the movie. I took that and I kind of made a background for it. I wrote all of my lines, and I basically wrote kind of the entire narration in a couple of hours, one night, and the next night I shot it. And it needed to get done because at this point, this was after the notes of injecting more of my story into the film. So this was all very new. I had maybe a couple of weeks to finish the movie before it premiered at Beyond the Balcony, which is Dingle's Arts Festival. And I was under pressure because it was like, I think I wrote it on a Saturday night, I shot it on a Sunday night, and then Monday morning I needed to be clean shaven for a background role as a high schooler. And I needed the continuity to match up with the final shot where I had kind of a bit longer hair and a beard. That way I could trick people into thinking that I stood out there on overlooking Skelly for that long.
Special effects. We're doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was the tattoo a special effect? So rub out.
Where is it?
There it is. All right.
There you
go.
I'm sure Eric had the budget to Henry Cavill, his beard. I mean,
oh, I wish.
It's like a reverse. Ends.
Yeah, I know. It was a close call. It was a close call. I'm glad everything worked out practically and everything.
Okay, the little Ryan Johnson, the little wink right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great.
Everybody says this when they come back from Ireland, but let me ask you this: true Irish Guinness or American Guinness?
Oh my God, Irish Guinness all the way. Listen,
it's a different experience.
I am pretentious about three things, and that's bagels, pizza, and Guinness. Bagels and pizza are made with New York water, and that is it. I'm sorry, and then Guinness.
I grew up on Long Island. I go to my parents' house. So I'm always picking up bagels. I understand.
Yeah, you get it, man.
So are you playing through the credits to see your post-credit stuff?
Let's do it. Anyone who's watching, please stay for the credits and pay tribute to all the people that made this movie possible. But Irish Guinness all the way. I think I was a Guinness fan before going to Ireland. And then once you get there, I want to come up with some kind of sarcastic analogy, but I can't even think of it right now. But you're introduced to like a whole new world as soon as you take that first sip of a real Irish Guinness. And then when you come back and you try American Guinness, which is they have breweries all over the States, and there is one in New York, which is supposedly the best in America. And I kind of agree with that, but it's not Irish. There are, if wherever you live, you can go to a real Irish pub and ask them where they import it from. And there's a number in New York City. There's some on Long Island that import it from Dublin itself, so the Dublin Storehouse. I'll shout out Spencer, you're a Long Islander. Lily Flanagan's pub in Babylon. They import it directly from Dublin. There's a few pubs in Manhattan that do Connolly's, is like the big tourist pub they imported from Dublin. But yeah, once you go Irish, you never
There it
go
is.
back. Yeah.
We had to be porgs just for this scene.
Yeah. The post-credit scene.
Right there.
It's supposed to be good luck, so
Yeah. You know what? That's what they say. I mean,
I was told that when I was younger, and I got
yeah.
the same thing happened to me in like a aviary or somewhere I was at, and I was like, freaking out.
Yeah, it's happened a few. This honestly, this was probably the only time a bird's ever shit in my hand where it has felt like good luck. Every other time it felt like bad luck.
Right.
Well, it's Irish. It's the luck of the Irish.
Exactly, the luck of the
It's
Irish.
that backhanded
And
luck.
it was funny. It was unintentional, kind of the way it worked out. So the post credit ends, and then so my production label is called Good Mojo, and you hear a voice saying, "I give you good mojo," and that's Steven Spielberg's voice, because there was one time I met him, and I was telling him about this was last year. I was actually in the middle of trying to get like the Ryan stuff when he was promoting Glass Onion, and then I ran into completely randomly Mr. Spielberg, and I told him, "Yeah, I'm about to shoot a movie on Friday," which was unrelated to the documentary. This was the short, the Magical Mystery Toy.
Nice.
And he said to me, "I give you good mojo."
Oh, wow.
And that was like, as soon as he said it to me, I'm like, that's my production label. And then you hear that voice right after I get shit on by a puffin, and it feels in a weird way poetic. Yeah.
Cool.
So what are you working on next? What's your next project?
That's a fantastic question, Spencer. I wish I had an answer for you. I have no idea. I mean, I think, but there's definitely, you feel creative burnout, definitely, especially like you. I've been working on this for this has been with me for 2 years, and now that it's out, and I would love to kind of feel like it's been successful, but it really hasn't felt that way, in the sense that it hasn't been to many festivals, despite submitting to. I mean, I had submitted the film in May to, I think, 3 dozen film festivals, and then the SAG strike happened, which normally wouldn't affect indie filmmakers, but of course, of all people, it did affect me, because the whole documentary is about Star Wars, and I stood with SAG-AFTRA throughout their strike, and I'm so happy they reached a deal. But it did that. That strike did kind of work its way into cracks of the industry you wouldn't really expect it to. So because of the nature of just the subject of Star Wars, and that being a Disney project, 3 dozen festivals said no and wouldn't give me my money back after submitting. So it hasn't really been seen much, and it hasn't really been seen a lot online. So right now, I think I just got to focus on taking a step back and figuring out what's next. So I don't know. It won't be a documentary, I'll say that. I'm kind of just, I'm sick of the doc, I'll be honest. But I don't know if I find a good script or something, because I'm not dead set on writing it, as long as I direct it. So if I find a good script, I'll do it. If something comes to me in a dream or a vision, maybe I'll write it and hopefully direct it. Hopefully there's something this year. I think at this point, I've been working on stuff consistently for the last 2 years, just one thing after another, projects overlapping. So it would be really difficult for me to kind of just stop and not do anything and just slow down. So I don't know what's next, but I'm as anxious as anybody else to
You talked a
know
little
what
bit
that is.
earlier about it. You mentioned it a little bit, but tell us a little bit about Magical Mystery Toy.
Yeah. So it's a short film that I had the idea for in 2018, and it kind of came about because I'm such a huge JJ fan, and he's been so kind to me every time I've seen him, and I love his TED talk about his mystery box theory of storytelling, and the story that he told about his grandfather taking him to Tannen's magic shop in New York when he was a little kid, and he still goes there every time he's in New York. He always tries to stop by Tannen's because he was a big magic guy. So I had this idea for a short where there's a character that goes into magic shop and gets a magic trick that is more than meets the eye to avoid any spoilers. And I kind of had that idea for 4 or 5 years, sat on it, didn't really think about it, and then started kind of took it out of a drawer and started writing for it, and it ended up becoming a feature outline. So an outline for a movie that would have ideally been 2 hours, and the footage that you see in the short was originally going to be footage from the feature, and I was directing that and editing that. And then I got the Ryan interview, so it kind of was full steam ahead on Space Western to get it done by April. And then I kind of abandoned Magical Mystery Toys. So right now, as it stands, it's just a short. I'd love to maybe do that as a feature one day if someone gives me the money to do it. But yeah, I mean, I say it's my favorite thing that I've done because with this, there's so much of me in it that I just can't watch it. From not even like I just don't want to. I'm already plagued with having to listen to my voice 24/7, so to have to listen to it for 35 more minutes is not fun for me. So yeah, I would say if you dug this, or if you want a cool like mystery holiday-esque thing, I mean it's all about Christmas in New York, and it's a kind of a social commentary on the consumerism around the holidays. And it was a lot of fun to make. I spent only 2 days filming it, which was definitely a struggle. There was never a moment in those 2 days where the camera wasn't rolling or we weren't moving to the next location. So it was a huge challenge. I mean, nothing I've ever done has ever been as challenging as Space Western, just because of all of the reasons you see in the doc. But yeah, I think that it's a 15-minute short, and it's probably my favorite thing that I've done.
I just posted a Vimeo link in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah.
People
check it out. Let me know what you think. Again, like I said earlier, positive and negative feedback, it's all welcome. I take negative feedback with a grain of salt, and I take it as only the best way to get better. Any artist or filmmaker or whatever that can't listen to negative feedback is doing themselves a disservice, because then they're just too stubborn and their craft isn't going to get better. And I'm still young and starting, and I've been making stuff for what feels like a while, but I look at people like Spielberg and Scorsese that are directing and still learning things from young filmmakers well into their 70s, and Scorsese I think just turned 81. So I hope that every movie I make ends up being better than the last one. So I never want to go into a project with the mindset that there's nothing to learn from the previous thing, I guess. And what this documentary taught me was compromising and problem solving in a way that no other project has ever taught me. So in that way, I'm really grateful for having made this.
Well, we're very grateful for you making this as well. Like I said, it was an absolute pleasure seeing the premiere in Boston, and being able to watch this with you. And Eric, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to meet up with us tonight to watch this incredible documentary and talk to us about the making and everything that you're involved with.
Listen, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure. It was great to talk to you guys. It was great to talk to you again, Spencer. I mean, I'm so glad that you were at Boston again. I mean, that was such a great audience. You guys were amazing, and I'm just thrilled to share it with everybody. So to everyone watching, thanks for tuning in. I hope you dug it. If not, I'm sorry. I did the best I could. But I'm just thrilled that I get to finally share this story with everybody, and I hope everyone gets to visit Ireland. If you haven't been already, or if you don't live there, you won't regret it. It's going to be the best trip of your life, and you got to make it a priority to go to Dingle. It's the best, absolutely the best. I'm going back there for Paddy's Day, so I'm
Oh, that's
very
awesome.
excited. It's like the way people go to homecomings for whatever college and high school. That's what it feels like going back to the Dingle.
Well, I
So
broke out
absolutely go.
my Skellig Wars mug.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Is that from
Yes.
Gary?
Yeah, it was actually not from Gary. One of my high school friends was actually over in Cork in Dublin for a while, and he went over to Skellig, and I texted him like, "Well, if you happen upon anything Star Wars, just grab it, and I'll
Yeah.
Venmo you right now." So he grabbed me a mug and a T-shirt, and actually shipped it from Ireland to my house,
That's fantastic. That's
which
great.
is awesome. But
That's great.
once
Now you
again,
got to
Eric,
go.
I know I've been telling my wife that because my wife is Irish. So
Okay.
can I bring her back to their motherland?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do like a whole tour of a bunch of the different counties, trace back the heritage.
Well,
Think you know.
if you're familiar with Southie, that's where my wife is from. So
Okay. Yeah. I haven't been there, but yeah.
yeah. So if you watch like Black Mass,
Sure.
it's about
Okay.
Southie. But once again,
Awesome.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us
Absolutely.
tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me. This was awesome. So.
And Dave, we're starting Ahsoka Revisited next week. We have a special guest. Who we have next week joining us?
Oh my gracious! Is Ahsoka Revisited as a special guest? Do we have the banner on here? Is it a banner?
Let me see if I can find one.
It's not right here. But we are going to have Hal Hickle. We've had Hal on the program many times before, and it's always the fun. Spencer's looking at me like weirdness.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm very excited to have Hal join us back again, especially now that we can have actors and crewmen come and talk about Ahsoka. And he has a special affinity for the work that he did on episode 1 of Ahsoka. So we're looking forward to seeing Hal and many others as we rewatch Ahsoka in the next couple of weeks. But as before, this is our last watch along for 2023. We hope you've enjoyed them all. We very much thank our guest tonight, Eric, for joining us. And from Dave, from Jeff, from Eric, and this is Spencer saying, Happy New Year, and may the Force be with you.
Have a
Force
good one.
be with you all.